Well, I think it was the war that changed my life a lot. That was in, well, it ended in 1945, started in 1930s something, 38 or so, wasn't it, when the British were there. I think that was the biggest change in my life. That was a change in our income and all that stuff. It would be the big change. Yeah.
So you started having money.
Yeah.
After the poverty of the Depression.
After the war was over, that was a big change.
And a lot of new appliances came in then too, right? The vacuum cleaner was after the war.
Yes.
You could afford to buy those appliances then.
There were so many new things come out. There's the airplane, and all the mechanical things that came out during the war. Were destructive things. It would destruct things, you know. It was bad. And I think the rationing was bad too. We had, I don't think, would you remember the rationing? We had to color it with a little round thing. We had to use whole wheat flour. We had no sugar. We had no butter. And the only flour, as I say, was whole wheat. We didn't, the British were worse than we were, because I had, my aunts and all were over there, but we got meat, but not a lot of meat. We had a butcher across from us on Genesee Street. He used to come out here. He'd get a cow and have it killed, and he'd give us meat. He didn't care if we had a coop out or not. But when one of the fellows would come home on furlough, they always got a big steak. He always set them a big steak. But we didn't get steaks and stuff like that, just cheap meat. That's all we got, you know. We had a lot of baked beans and stuff like that. Spaghetti. And not too much spaghetti I didn't make then. I make more spaghetti now than I ever did years ago. And but we had a lot of baked beans and stuff like that, which is good for you, yeah. But the food, we didn't starve, but it wasn't nice, you know. We had tea and coffee, but we had to be very careful with it. It was rationed, because some of it was all brought in, you know, tea and coffee. And spices, we had no spices, unless you had some left over, you know. And it was hard during the war. The clothing was not too good, yeah. That's when the dresses got shorter during the war. They saved material, see. And that was something, when the dresses got shorter. It was something when I bought my hair.
Yeah.
When I had my hair cut, that was terrible. Oh, when I come home and my father said, "What have you done to your hair?" Well, I got a bond. Well, it was awful. And I wore the first knickers that came out. They were like knickers. They'd come here like they wear playing golf. And the women were wearing knickers. And I bought a pair. Oh, that was terrible. That was terrible.
Did you get in trouble?
What? Appliance? What's this word?
Dead.
You take
Like
the best. What appliance do I like the best? Oh, there's two. The electric stove and the refrigerator. Yeah. They were wonderful when they come out. Yeah. And the vacuum cleaner. There's really three. The stove, the refrigerator, and the vacuum cleaner, I think, is the best. Don't you? I do too.
What did you do before a stove?
What did I do?
Before you had a stove?
It's electric stove. She had coal.
Before I had an electric stove, we had a coal stove. And it had a thing at the top that you opened up, and it was a warming oven. You kept things warm. And when you want to cook beans and that, you put in the back of the stove, and it would just simmer. The beans would just simmer. And anything like that, soups and stuff, you just simmer. And you'd have wood or coal. You could have either one. That's what we had, you know. When we had this place, when we, just the central part of the upstairs, but we had the cellar, you know. We had a furnace. My husband put the furnace in, and we had coal. And they delivered up and put it through the front window there. And we had coal. But it's all the ashes and stuff you had to bring up, you know. That's kind of dirty, yeah. And then he put an oil burner in, that same thing, conversion they called it then. He put the oil burner in, and I had that for a long, long time. It was a Sears Roebuck burner, and it was a darn good one. And we had it. Well, I'm thinking I was working in the museum when I got the new furnace. And so that was, you know, within later years. We had it for years and years, and that motor always run. It was beautiful. Except it was good when the furnace wore out, but the motor didn't. But I had to have a new furnace, you know, a whole new thing. That lasted a long time. Things are made not as good. I think it's hurried. Everything is hurried too much. And they don't last as long as they used to. I don't think. Yeah, I know I wiggle around. And I don't think it does. I don't think things last as much as they did. No. I just got a little experience now. I got one of those clock-like things on my outside light, and something happened to it. And I thought someone touched it because you set it like an alarm clock almost. I've had it for 20 years anyway. And I said to my grandson Sunday, someone touched it and got it mixed up. Would you set it for me? And he said, sure. He set it, but it isn't working. I think it isn't ticking. It's supposed to tick. So I think it's finally gone. But that's a long time for that thing to be working. See? Now the next one I get won't be as good. See? I don't think so. I have to get a new one. Appliances. I think the ironers was a great help too. But we don't iron now. Nope. I haven't used my iron in 2 years.
I know.
I used to iron 14 shirts a week for my husband and son. White shirts.
Tell her about the old
And, the old iron. What kind of an iron did she have? Well, it was on the stove. On the stove. I don't have one. It was an iron thing, and you had to have a holder to hang on to it, and you put it on the stove, the coal stove, and when it gets hot, then you ironed, and then when it cooled off, you had two of them going, and while that was heating, you ironed, and you put it back. Yeah, I can remember my mother. I didn't have to use one, no. What did I use? 36 or 24. I can't remember, but I must have ironed. But I wasn't iron shirts then, like that. I don't know. I can't remember what I used for an iron. There was some kind of a thing. No, I don't know. I don't remember that. I can't think of anything else. During the war,